Next, new Wilmington Police Chief Robert Tracy arrives in the middle of a crime spree. He tells us what he plans to do about it. This is the Delaware Way. Welcome to the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Menti. Wilmington has a new police chief. Robert Tracy comes to Wilmington after serving as Chief of Crime Control Strategies for the city of Chicago, basically number 2 in charge. And he was also in the NYPD for over 20 years. But he arrives in Wilmington in the middle of one of the worst shooting and murder sprees in the city's history. And that's saying something considering the recent history. So we have a lot to talk about. But sir, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming in to talk.
Thank you, Larry.
I want to start with a couple of news stories right off the top, because you come here on a day that the Wilmington News Journal and DelawareOnline.com has a headline, "Did the city rush to the arrest after a boy's shooting?" This was a June 6th shooting, as you know,
Yes.
of a 6-year-old boy, Jashawn Banner. And you had promised the next day that there would be arrest quickly.
Yes.
There was an arrest quickly. It turns out it might have been the wrong guy. What happened?
Well, obviously, anytime, first you have a 6-year-old that's shot. We talk about the crime. We talk about people that know each other, that are involved in this crime. A small circle of people continue to be involved in violence. And it's not just unique to Wilmington. It's unique in a lot of other cities. So those are the people we need to concentrate on and to make sure we reduce crime and reduce the violence in this city, how we've done in other cities. But when you have a case like this, when you have a positive ID from witnesses as far as a person that did the shooting, we have to act on that, and which we have, for probable cause for arrest. But what I'm most proud of, and I think the story misses, is that when an arrest is made on a case like this, we continue our investigation and make the best case possible. And when new evidence comes in and we see it, we actually follow these new leads and we act upon it, as you see with the story, as a release of the gentleman that we arrested. Because of that and good investigation, we want to make sure we get it right. And then we actually act swiftly. And then we talk about it back in the press.
I think the story had a different take.
Right.
And the story was saying, should you have done the work that you're talking about
Right.
before you announce the arrest?
Well, when you have a positive ID and you have an arrest warrant on an individual that you're searching for, and you make the arrest, it's public information to begin with. So we had enough to arrest the individual on what we had as the evidence that was brought before us. Continue the investigation. We made a decision that possibly to dismiss the charges and move in certain directions that might lead us to the people or the persons that actually did the shooting.
Just to wrap this up, so you were saying your contention is that there was no mistake made, there was no rush to judgment, there was no rush to arrest, there was no rush to make an announcement. This was just the way police do their job.
It's the way we do our job. We didn't announce it. We had made the arrest, but we waited even till the next day to make sure we interview this individual, talk to him about alibis, talk about the investigation, where the person was, and we made a decision to make the arrest and continue the investigation. And when we found things that possibly can move us in a new direction, we made a decision to make an announcement that we're gonna dismiss charges at this time on this individual.
Another thing that's in the news right now is the curfew that's being debated in City Council.
Sure.
8 p.m. for anyone under the age of 18, which is equal to the most strict curfews in the country. Will that do any good?
Curfews are only as good as what the follow-up is. So if our officers are enforcing curfew, and of course any ordinance that's put out and it's agreed upon with the City Council, we're going to enforce the curfew. But my concern, and is always my concern, what is the wraparound services? If that child is out there even 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, even sometimes with the 10, 11 o'clock curfew that we have in place, what is happening in that home that the child is out at that time with no supervision? And if we do bring the person in for curfew, and we either bring them back to where the parents are, what good is it if they go in the front door and go right back out the back door? And then that's a use of police resources that I want my officers on the street preventing crime, and that actually dealing with something that is a social service issue.
So the bill as it stands right now, or the debate right now in City Council, if it's just a curfew and there's nothing that goes along with it, you'd be against it?
I'm not against curfews. If there's a child that's out there with no supervision, there's something going on. And what happens...
At 8 o'clock? 8 o'clock during the summer?
8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, once it's after dark, whatever time it is, if it's a rule and it's something that's out there, we'll enforce it. But what it's going to do is it's going to prompt, why is the child out there at a certain time? They can be out there with supervision. They can be out there. There's certain exceptions if they're coming to and from one of the safe haven centers. If they're out where the things we're supplying at parks departments, PALs, YMCAs, they have permission to go back and forth from those locations. But if they're hanging out in the street in some of these areas that are very challenged, we kind of want to make sure that they're supervised. And if they're not supervised, we want to know why.
One of the pushbacks on curfews, and the police chiefs came out, the Police Chief Association came out against curfews and said they haven't worked. And in some areas, the crime is actually going up. The shootings have actually gone up during the time when there's supposed to be a curfew.
Right.
And so you're not in agreement with them.
Well, you know, did we talk about it further? Are we against it? I just talked about it.
I understand.
I'm against it if we do not have the wraparound services. I'm still going to enforce it because, you know what, I want to know what's happening with that child when they're out after hours unsupervised. What I would like to have is a wraparound services where we find out what's going on in that child's life or in that home, that maybe we can interdict or mediate and get that home some help, or that child, and why he's out in the street, he or she is out in the street. So I think what the police chiefs are saying is that just doing this alone, taking officers off the street, actually crime will go up, what I just talked about. If my officers are dealing with a child and not on the street preventing crime, and there's nothing that's going to be recidivist, that's going to keep coming right back out, I want to make sure we have solutions and more thought on the back end of curfews.
I just want to wrap up the curfew. The curfew as it stands right now. I know you're saying there has to be a wraparound, but as it stands right now, it is just a curfew. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's coming with all the other things you say. As it stands right now, 8 o'clock curfew if you're under 18. And it means that your officers will have to implement this curfew and go and find children that are out in the streets after 8 o'clock.
Right.
As it stands right now, you would be against this unless it comes with some other strategies involved, or is that up to you? Is that up not up to City Council?
It's up to City Council, but I've been in contact with City Council, and we've talked about these things, and they're in agreement that we do need wraparound services on the back end, and what we're going to do.
Shouldn't that happen at the same time, though?
I'm hoping it all happens at the same time, but if it's implemented in stages and there's a promise of this, we can get it started. But I would like to see that coming shortly right behind it. So I have to see more. They're going to make a decision on it. I have weighed in with my concerns, and we'll see where this goes. All
right, and now I want to get back to, the current crime wave and also talk about your strategies and what you did in Chicago and New York when the Delaware Way continues with Chief Robert Tracy right after this.